Shire Council this Tuesday, the 2nd of April 2019. So members of the public gallery should note that Council records and publishes Council's meetings via YouTube to enhance the accessibility of Council meetings to the broader Wellington community. These recordings are also archived and may be published on Council's website for viewing by the public or used for publicity or information purposes. At the appropriate time during the meeting, members of the gallery may address the Council, at which time their image, comments or submissions will be recorded. Members of the public who are not in attendance at the Council meeting but who wish to communicate with the Council via the webcasting chat room should lodge their questions or comments early in the meeting to ensure that their submissions can be dealt with at the end of the meeting. Please could gallery visitors and councillors ensure that mobile phones or other electronic devices are turned off or in silent mode for the duration of the meeting. And if we could stand for the acknowledgement and the prayer. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land, the Kurnai people, and pay respects to their elders past and present. Almighty God, we ask your blessing upon the Wellington Shire Council, its councillors, officers, staff and their families. We pray for your guidance in our decisions so that the true good of the Wellington Shire Council may result to the benefit of all residents and community groups. Amen. Amen. Do you have any apologies? No. Declarations of conflicts of interest. Councillor Bye.
Thanks, Mayor. I'd like to declare I've got a conflict of interest for item A8 and it's a direct interest.
Thanks, Councillor Bye. Item A4, confirmation of minutes of the previous council meeting. Councillor Bye.
Thanks, Mayor. I move the Council adopt the minutes and resolutions of the ordinary council meeting of the 19th of March 2019.
Second of that motion, Councillor Marr. Is that motion opposed? If not, the motion is carried. Is there no business arising from the previous minutes? Moving on to item A6, acceptance of late item. Councillor Hull.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move a late item, that item A71 regarding the timber release plan be accepted as a late item.
Do we have a second for that motion? Councillor Stevens. Is that motion opposed? Councillor McCubbin. Councillor Crosley. Should put the motion? Or do you need to speak to it? So Councillor Hull.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. The reason this is a late item is because of the time challenge. Other Gippsland councils have brought on late items in their council meetings in the last 3 or 4 days. Because of the fact the non-release of the timber release plan is putting in jeopardy nearly 4,000 jobs, or could put into jeopardy nearly 4,000 jobs in Gippsland. And so there is an enormous amount of concern among the councils as to the future. The media has been running with the story on behalf of those councils, and I'm just going to dial a couple onto the face of the table here. At Powelltown, 35 jobs, and their timber supplies are starting to wear thin. No guarantee of any more coming. Down in the Trove Valley, small place.
One moment, Councillor Hull.
Can I a point of order? Mayor, are we debating the emergency or are we debating? Was Councillor Hull
we should, in fact, no, at this stage I don't believe Councillor Hull has commenced to speak to the motion, but rather indicate some background. But if he could keep his comments in regard to the urgency of the motion, that would be useful.
Right. Well, that's what I was trying to do. Thank you. So I will just 3 other dot points. That Victoria State-owned Forestry Corporation has been instructed to suspend the release of areas of native property.
Councillor Hull, if I could just interrupt, the purpose of this is that you're moving is that because of the lateness of the hour in regard to this motion, you see the motion to be urgent.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to
and if once we've dealt with that, then you could perhaps then deal with the motion itself. So if you're happy with that.
All right, yep.
Okay. Councillor Stevens, do you wish to speak to the motion now? We want to reserve the right? Yeah. Councillor McCubbin?
Thank you very much. Firstly, I'd like to congratulate Councillor Hole on bringing forward this motion. I think his continuous advocation for the timber industry is to be congratulated, and indeed, should the item come up as declared by Councillor Hole before time, I would support it. So I will immediately say that. And I guess the argument that I've got with you today is one about procedure and protocol, and for councillors around the table, I hope they don't see that as being particularly petty. The idea of it is that we have this thing called late items, which indicate whether something is a urgent action. And I think it's conditional on councillors to determine whether something is urgent before we actually go through the process of debating it. And whilst this might, as I said, be considered by councillors to be somewhat of a petty item, can I at least give you 3 good reasons why we should have things correctly indicated within the agenda before time so that we can properly consider the motions. For the first thing, it's about the openness and transparency of council sitting around the table. It is really essential that we provide ahead of time our community with the information about what we're about to discuss so that they can prepare themselves, advocate if they like, and approach councillors if they have particular issues that they wish done. I think it's a very complimentary thing of this council that we have a very open and transparent system whereby issues are put up in the public sphere beforehand, the paper gets a chance to tell everybody what's going on, people can turn up to council and have a debate should they feel necessary. So that's one. Number 2 is I think if we're given it before time and councillors get a chance to properly consider the point, we can improve our advocacy. For example, most of us didn't find out about this until somewhat late, and I appreciate that Councillor Hole tried to do that, but in giving it to us early as we possibly can, it gives us an opportunity to contact perhaps Vic Forests or perhaps members of Parliament or perhaps members of our constituency who have an advice in that, because advocacy is a tricky thing. Advocacy is not something at which, it's very easy for us just to put something up, we all put our hand up, we all go home. But I think it's really important that if councillors are going to have an informed position which improves that advocacy, we need as much time as possible to have that debate. So I think it improves our advocacy by having things ahead of time so that we can work on them and improve them. And thirdly, I think it provides us with leadership within our organisation. We demand that our officers present to us a week and a half ahead of time with an agenda with all the items on it. I would be flabbergasted if one of those officers approached us 2 days before and said, here's an item. I would demand of them, why is this not given to us a week and a half beforehand? Why did they not do that? And I think we as councillors have a role in terms of leadership within the organisation to demonstrate a level of governance. And that is that you get something in, a week or so beforehand to allow us to be open and transparent and to properly informed decision. So all I'm asking is that we have some guidelines around the urgency of this motion. Now, I absolutely agree, and in the face of it, it looks, we've had this, it's supposedly on the table since July of last year, so it's been sitting around for a while. But the case is, if it's been sitting around since July of last year, then surely, what's another 2 weeks? I know it's an important issue for our timber industry, and I grant that, but is it an urgent issue? Is it something that'll go away in 2 weeks' time? Is it something that we shouldn't be, doing properly? So, whilst again I praise Councillor Hole for bringing this issue to our table, I simply ask that we consider whether it is urgent or not. And at this stage, I'm not hearing the urgency in the motion. Thank you. Thanks,
Councillor McCubbin. Any other councillors to speak, firstly for the motion or against the motion? Yep. Councillor Crosley.
Thank you, Mayor. I too have concerns that we need to really follow our procedures, and we really need time to deliberate on our decisions. And as Councillor McCubbin stated, it's not deriding or dismissing the suggested late item. It's just the process that doesn't meet the criteria for urgency. I think there's some other issues as well. We're in fact got the opportunity to meet with Vic Forest tomorrow morning, so it seems a little premature that if we have the opportunity to have these discussions with them, there may be something that could add to that argument and in our advocacy if it so succeeds later on when it's submitted to the agenda in the normal way. We really need to make sure that it's not a precedent that if we just don't get our paperwork in time that we rush these things through. I think that it's also a bad indication to our community that we will make these decisions on the hop just because they're presented to us on the day. So I think it's much better that we go through the normal processes of it submitted to the agenda in the appropriate manner. Then we have time to deliberate, seek other information. The officers can actually add some depth to it in a report or material for the motion. So I think on this occasion I can't support this as a late item on this today. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Crosley. So no one else to speak for or against the motion. So before we put the motion, Councillor Hull, you have the right to speak to close the debate.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Just one little quick comment. I appreciate the people who don't like procedure, but I'd like to suggest they have a look at our agenda. Item A6 provides for the acceptance of late items. Now, the fact that some people or some councillors would like it to be a more formal event to put it in, the fact is that we do make provision in the agenda for this sort of a motion to come up.
Thanks, Councillor Hull. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? By my count, the motion is carried.
Move for a division, please.
Division. All those for? So that's Councillor Stevens, Councillor Ripper, Councillor Bye, Councillor Hull, Councillor Mark, Councillor Hall. Against? Councillor McCubbin, Councillor Crosley, Councillor Rossetti. So moving on then to item A7, which is the actual motion. So can we have that up? Councillor Hull.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. And thank you, councillors, for giving the opportunity to speak. You can now get a second chance whether to vote it up or vote it down, so that it'll be in your hands. But the reason behind
I
this...
think, Councillor Hull, you need to move the motion, do you not?
sorry, I better move the motion, yeah. But the Mayor right to the
You
state
just,
government...
look, it's a tricky day just testing my skill set here.
I moved the last one. No, God, I get excited when I stand up. That the Mayor right to the state government requesting the immediate release of the timber release plan.
Do I have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Bye. Is that motion opposed? If not, the motion is carried. Division. So...
That's for the motion.
For the motion?
We'll record that as...
Or is unanimous?
No debate required.
Councillor Hull? Nothing further to say?
No, it's carried unanimously, so there's no debate required.
You can speak.
You can speak to the motion though. It's a training wheels day for the Mayor, I think.
All right, thanks, Mayor. The purpose behind this motion, it wasn't that we had a week or 10 days or a fortnight beforehand to prepare it to get it on the agenda paper. The concerns and worries of the industry didn't come forward until last Wednesday and Thursday, and I've got the documents here and I'll give you the dates in a second as to the documents that came out. The worry that's concerning the industry, that 3 years ago the government did a combination of experts to look at the future of the native timber harvesting and to protect the 4,000 jobs in Gippsland. We talk Gippsland, but there's also a significant number of jobs on the other side of the Great Divide, with councils up there, Indigo, Murrumbindi, Alpine and Towong also rely on that timber. The withdrawal or the withholding of the release plan, which was due for release in July last year, is causing significant problems. Right now, a lot of the smaller mills are either just about out of logs or no logs to get past July. In fact, we had one particular operator in Morville, there's only a small operator, who, when I'll name them, it's in public immediate release, SKM Contracting in Gippsland, and they were hit hard by the timber shortfall, and they had to lay off young people with mortgages and whatever. He hasn't had to harvest a tree since the Australia Day weekend, and so he had to let his workers go. And when he questioned the officials about the situation, they told him to go up and work on the fires. And he said workers on the fires isn't going to help him with the banks. The Weekly Times last week, I'm just trying to get this stuff, and this was the 27th of March. So it was after that the agenda items had closed when they came out in full force. The timber jobs face chop as log suppliers delayed that, and that was 35 jobs at New G in Powelltown, and that caused the Yarra Ranges Council to swing into action. It's amazing that they've been a green council, and that was quite open and obvious. And yet when the motion came, and I've got to admit I did pinch their motion, they only had one councillor who objected, and he was a green councillor. But they did ask for the immediate decision to release the timber plan. What the timber industry wants is certainty of supply, the ability to manufacture and to keep jobs in Gippsland, because it's not only us that if the government decides to withdraw the opportunity to get logs, there's a place called APM who have been legislated to get 300,000 cubic metres of offal or byproducts or D-class logs to manufacture paper. And anybody sitting around this table in this room knows that from there comes things like toilet paper, birthday cards, newspaper, and that is a very valuable resource, and it's now in danger. So the immersion here is that we write the state government, and last night, here again, an urgent motion by Latrobe Council, they also did a similar motion, but also asked in their motion that the MAB, One Gippsland Local Government Network, and Committee for Gippsland also advocate to the state government to get this plan released. And that was carried unanimously out in their council. So, councillors, I commend the motion to you. We have a significant native industry timber in our shire, and we have, to me anyway, every right to try and protect them and encourage the government to put out the surety of the future.
Thanks, Councillor Hull. I think the vote confirmed our mutual concern for the industry as well. Moving on to item A82, receipt of petition Lakeside Bowls Club.
Thanks, Mayor. I'd just like to declare my conflict of interest again for a direct interest.
Thanks, Councillor Bye. So we'll just wait for Councillor Bye to leave the room. To have a move that motion. Councillor Stevens.
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor. I'm pleased to move that Council received the attached petition in relation to the relocation of gaming machines from Lakeside Bowls Club to Sporting Legends sale.
Second of that motion. Councillor Rossetti. Is that motion opposed? Not. The motion is carried. Councillor Stevens?
Yes, well, obviously this is just a procedure that is contained in our local law, Mr Mayor. Council is obviously aware that there's a lot of interest in this matter. I mean, individual councillors have been approached, and I know that there's a process being undertaken to look into this matter, and obviously we will await with interest the further report from council officers.
Thanks, Councillor Stevens. We can have Councillor Bye come back in. And move on to item A9, which is invited addresses, presentations or acknowledgements. Have you got one, Councillor Bye?
I have, Mayor. We haven't probably done one from this organisation for a while, but I thought I'd give the council a little bit of background on why we are getting this certificate of appreciation. 5 years ago, about 12 gentlemen that live in the Wellington Shire decided they'd have a go at forming a Wellington's biggest ever Big Blokes barbecue event. And you might say, what the hell is that? What that involves is actually getting 420 blokes, yes I mean blokes, together for a bit of a networking, mingling, have a few beers, have a general chit-chat together in one venue. This is 4th year that has actually been operating, so it's quite an achievement for a small committee to bring together 420 blokes. There is nothing else, I believe, in the Wellington Shire that brings together people to come together for sort of a networking. It's also quite good in the farming queue now with the drought to bring people together, to have a beer, have a bit of a yarn and get them off the farm. We've found has been quite good over the last 2 years. Now you might think, well, what are those blokes actually there for? They're there for prostate awareness and also raising money for prostate research and to keep some money locally. So I'll explain a bit further. What we do, we are very high in the Wellington Shire for diagnosis of prostate cancer. We're one of the highest in country Victoria. But our actual checking of prostates, which is only a blood test now, no finger anymore, you don't need to go that far. We're quite low in actually people getting checked, so we decided a group of people would get together and actually start a committee and run this event. What have we achieved over that period of time? In year 1, we gave $40,000 towards completion to help with oncology at the hospital. We also gave $40,000 to prostate cancer research. In year 2, 3 and 4, we gave an extra $40,000 per year for each of those years. The other half of the money we have kept in reserve, and they announced this year that we are actually going to fund for 3 years a prostate nurse that is dedicated for the Wellington Shire men to utilise, much like the McGrath Foundation nurses for breast cancer. So a real credit to the committee to actually, for one, to set something up, for two, to raise over $360,000 over that 4-year period, for a great event that people like going to. The event, you might think, is still going strong. It was sold out 2 months before the event was actually going to take part this year, and we actually had a waiting list of people that wanted to attend, but unfortunately the Memorial Hall can only fit so many people in there. But a real credit to a committee for something that's great for the Wellington Shire. There are 11 other Big Blokes barbecue events around Victoria. They're all designed to get people together, to raise awareness and also get some money to go back into a local community and research. So for people that didn't know what actually that is, and you'll see that in October, start of October is the place where we have it at the Memorial Hall. It's quite a great event. But I'd just like to pass a certificate of appreciation. What the Wellington Shire does is give them a small grant of $2,000 towards a community event to help with a hall hire and running it, but a great community event to bring people together. So there you go.
Thank you very much. Well, I have one as well, which I'm delighted to receive, and that's the Gippsland Road Safety Award 2019. It's an award of recognition to the Wellington Shire Council, and I'll read from the certificate. In the category of local government initiatives, Wellington Shire Council is presented with this award of recognition for embedding road safety in local government operations, strategies and plans. Regional Roads Victoria go on to say, we thank you for your commitment and dedication to reducing road trauma. And just to note, from my screen, this was initiative was the brainchild, no pun intended there, Catherine, of Catherine Vassiller, our coordinator, social policy and planning. So Kath initiated this collaboration project between community wellbeing and environment, including John Taddison, manager, and Zach Alleman, the coordinator of that area. It's a great initiative and well done, particularly it's an opportunity to say to Catherine, well done and all the very best for your future. So thank you very much. I'm just a little concerned that a road safety award should actually look like this, though. It's I'm not certain where the cables go through this or whether in fact it will stop you hitting a tree, but it's a fairly interesting looking object. So everyone involved in that, great job, well done, thank you. We got any? Do we have any others? If not, we'll move on to any questions on notice, CEO? Any delegates reports today? Moving on then to item C2, General Manager's Corporate Services Report, Assembly of Councillors. Councillor Crosley.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that Council note and receive the attached Assembly of Councillors records for the period 13 March 2019 to the 27th of March 2019.
That was seconded by Councillor Rossetti. Is that motion opposed? If not, the motion is carried. Councillor Crosley? That's fine. We're moving right on then to, I think it's item C5.1, Cameron Sporting Complex Committee of Management Membership. Councillor Hall.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll move that Council appoint the nominated Maffra Gymnastic Club member as detailed in the attached confidential report to the Cameron Sporting Complex Committee of Management for the remainder of the 3-year period ending the 18th of December 2021 and point 2 as per the government regulations.
Thanks, Councillor Hall. Seconded for that motion, Councillor Ripper. Is that motion opposed? If not, the motion is carried. Councillor Hall, just to speak to it. Item C5.3, Maffra Recreation Reserve Committee of Management Minutes. Oh, Councillor Ripper.
5.2.
Oh, sorry, I missed one. My apologies. I was crossing things out too quickly, so I'm back to 5.2, which doesn't make it a late item. It's just 5.2. It's the Gordon Street Recreation Reserve Committee of Management Minutes, and I think that's you, Councillor Hall.
Yeah, nice to see you get excited too, Mr Mayor. I'm going to move the Council receive the minutes from the Gordon Street Recreation Reserve Committee of Management General Meeting held on the 25th of February 2019.
Second for that motion. Councillor Crosley, is that motion opposed? If not, the motion is carried. Councillor Hull?
Just quickly, Mayor, the committee expressed verbally anyway the wonderful support that's come from Wellington Shire in the presentation of the new lighting, which means the night football will be able to be played on the Gordon Street Reserve, the upgrade of the netball courts, and the finishing off of the safety aspects in relation to public standing. And so the ground now is probably about ready to earn the title of the #1 ground in Wellington Shire.
Thanks, Councillor Hull. Item C5.3 now. Maffra Recreation Reserve Committee of Management Minutes. Councillor Ripper.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move that Council receive the minutes from the Maffra Recreation Reserve Committee of Management's general meeting held on the 4th of February 2019.
Second for that, Councillor Marr. Is that motion opposed? If not, motion is carried. Councillor Ripper.
Thank you, Mayor. Just like to let you all know that the drainage works have now been completed at the Maffra Rec Reserve, and it looks very, very nice, and it is in competition with the Hayfield Recreation Reserve. So we have another excellent reserve in Maffra, and the committee are looking forward to their football season starting very soon. Thank you.
Item C5.4, age-friendly strategy. I think this is you again, Councillor Ripper, is it not?
Okay. Thank you, Mayor. That Council approve the Wellington Age-Friendly Communities Strategy 2018 to 2022, open bracket, attachment A, close bracket.
Seconded, Councillor Stevens. Is that motion opposed? Not, the motion is carried. Councillor Ripper.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to read a few little pieces from the actual long document. Now, a lot of people will want to know, what is the age-friendly? What is it? Well, age-friendly is the World Health Organisation's policy response to global population ageing. The age-friendly framework provides guidance on best practice to local government bodies of 8 domains and cities and communities that have an impact on older people. As its most basic level, the age-friendly framework suggests a checklist of principles and actions across the following 8 domains: outdoor spaces and buildings, transportation, housing, social participation, respect and social inclusion, civic participation and employment, communication and information, along with community support and health services. In Victoria, age-friendly is a key component of the state government response to population ageing. Wellington Shire has signed the Age-Friendly Victoria Declaration, and this is the first age-friendly strategy to be developed. So why is Wellington Shire committing to become an age-friendly community? Older people are the fastest growing segment of our community, and the strategy outlines how Council is planning on responding to this demographic change. There are significant economic and social benefits to making Wellington an excellent place to live and visit for older people. If this opportunity is managed well, the strategy identifies council roles, records Wellington's complex and provides a framework, context, say again, records Wellington's context, and provides a framework for improvement in the future. The strategy provides a reference document for community members to frame their discussions with council regarding funding and service position. The timing is ideal to leverage the 2016 to 18 age-friendly project. This strategy will make it easy to become an accredited age-friendly community through the World Health Organization. So, just a few, as I've mentioned there in the area, that outdoor spaces and building, to reiterate, transport, housing, social participation, respect, social inclusion, civil participation and employment, and the communication and information, along with the community support and health. Now, I repeat those because that's a very important part of the strategy. So I would recommend that all those who are interested should read this document. It's very informative, and our ageing population have given so much to the Wellington Shire, and they are still giving, and it is a very important document. And I would suggest that those who want to learn or gain some wisdom catch up with one of our ageing population from the Wellington Shire, and you will walk away a better person. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Ripper. On behalf of us old people, well done. Item C5.5, terms of reference update for Section 86 committees. Councillor Stevens.
Yes, thank you very much. Mr Mayor, I'll turn my microphone on, might help. I would just like to move that Council adopt the revised terms of reference as attached for the Braggalong Quarry Reserve Committee of Management, the Braggalong Recreation Reserve Committee of Management, Cameron Sporting Complex Committee of Management, Gordon Street Recreation Reserve Committee of Management, Maffra Recreation Reserve Committee of Management, and Newry Recreation Reserve Committee of Management.
Seconded by Councillor Hole. Is that motion opposed? Councillor McCubbin. Would you wish to speak to that, Councillor McCubbin? I'll put the mover first. So who do we have? Councillor Stevens. Yep.
I don't think I wish to speak. Stace, thank you.
Seconded. Reserve your right. Councillor McCubbin.
Look, maybe I'm throwing myself against the machine guns of inevitability here, but look, I think it's important that we make a point about this, and that is that I'm just getting sick and tired of kicking this can down the road, all right? These are Section 86 committees, which are special committees of council, which were only derived historically from the Shire of Maffra entering into negotiations with the various Crown land reserves within their particular municipality years ago. And as a consequence, we have maintained that arrangement into this very day. That is not to devalue the wonderful volunteers that operate on those committees, because they are wonderful volunteers. That is not to flag that council wouldn't leave those people high and dry without ensuring that liabilities for insurance and all those sorts of things, because we absolutely need to determine those. What it is doing, though, is creating this special class of committees in an historically unusual area, which we continue just to go, oh, she'll be right, she'll be right, she'll be right. Understand these Section 86s have a councillor who comes along and looks after them. They have a whole lot of burdens upon their committee, including their minutes having to be brought up to council meetings, and we all debate them. So these special group of committees get their sections debated, whereas all the other DELP committees, all the other Crown land things don't. So you've got the Longford Recreation Reserve, the Yarram Recreation Reserve, you've got the Golden Beach, Hall, all these sorts of things which sit on Crown land. They don't get Section 86 because they weren't in the Shire of Maffra, and they don't get a councillor turn up to their meetings, and they don't have to get their minutes presented to committee meetings, but these do. And DELP and the state government continues to say, oh, not our problem, not our problem, not our problem, not our problem, not our problem. Well, it is their problem, because these are areas at which there is clearly their responsibility, and we need to find a solution for it. Now, I've been on this council for a while now, and maybe after today, too long, who knows, I'm happy with that. But I am just annoyed that we continue to kind of turn our back on the fact that we've got these Section 86s, which are legacy items from a time long ago. And it is time that we had an arrangement with DELP to move them or to evolve them into this new century. And that is a proper relationship with council that engages them appropriately, that it has appropriate levels of insurance. And whilst I may not oppose this when it finally comes up, I am just wish to record that I'm a little over it. Okay? Thank you.
So I'll put the motion, I believe. Or Councillor Hole, would you like to speak again to this matter?
Yeah, just briefly, thank you, having sat on these Section 86 committees for 19 years. They are a byproduct of the Maffra Council before the amalgamation. Most of them are now exceeding 30 years of age, but they weren't put in there just for the sake of making them Section 86 committees. There's a lot of ratepayers and councillors' money involved in those buildings and grounds, in the tune of millions and millions of dollars. And the committees that run those particular organisations volunteer their time, and they represent the committees that make up the sporting facilities and whoever uses the grounds. The long shot, or the upshot is that they have to record minutes and record them properly, and they have to come to council so that councillors see that the facilities are being used, looked after, and that those committees are financial. And that's the upshot of it. If we went back a little bit further in history, Maffra used to have councillors also on all the halls, Section 86 committee halls. And the late Don Sullivan sat there for nearly 40 years on the Hayfield Memorial Hall. So that the halls have nowhere near the value of the sporting facilities, but that's what they're there for. In relation to the terms of reference, they went out to every committee to look at, to make observations and recommendations, and that they are very happy to go down the new path with the alterations. And my thing is, it's worked for 30 years, it ain't broke, let's not do anything to it.
I'll put this motion, which revolves around an administrative and procedural matter. Councillor Stevens, do you wish to speak to this now?
I'll say, I have a comment in a minute.
Look, I'll just make an observation. I'll make an observation now. Thank you in closing the debate, Mayor. Look, I share Councillor McCubbin's frustration with the fact that we are maintaining Section 86 committees. I mean, once upon a time, this is a fairy tale, we had a lot more of these committees. And I acknowledge the fact that they take a lot of time and effort. Councillors have to give their time to attend these meetings. We have to deal with them in a certain procedural fashion which is set down in the Local Government Act. And that is what we're dealing with right here, Mr Mayor. We have had to update the terms of reference, and basically this is what this motion is about. As you just indicated quite correctly, it's a procedural motion. I mean, the whole fact and the frustration of having to have Section 86 committees, these 6 committees are basically still there for legal and technical reasons, and we really haven't got, I don't believe from what I've been told and understand, that we have an alternative way of running them at the moment because of the fact connection with DWALP and the fact that they're basically Crown Land Committees of Management, of which the Council is effectively the Crown Land Manager. So otherwise, I think if there was an alternative, we would have, with like all the other Section 86 committees we used to have, moved them to basically a different management arrangement, possibly incorporated under the Associations Incorporation Act. That's basically, I think, all I need to say.
Thanks, Councillor Stevens. Now, with a bit of luck, unless anyone else wishes to speak to this, I think we are all silent. We are all done. I'll put this procedural motion. All those in favour? Against? Motion was carried unanimously. Oh, if you want. Yeah. So we've got those four. All hands back up again. So it's Councillors Stevens, Ripper, McCubbin, By, Hole, Crosley, Marr, Rossetti, Hall. I think that's unanimous. Yep. Okay, is there any urgent business, CEO? Now, this is the opportunity, if we can move up the... if we have anyone, before I do this spiel, if there's anyone in the gallery who wishes to address Council, and given there are at least twice, then I would let you advise you before that gallery comments are an opportunity for members of the public to raise any particular matter they wish. This allows those in the gallery to speak directly to councillors, but it is not a forum designed for open discussion or debate. We will listen respectfully to what you have to say and make the commitment that the Mayor, that's me, will respond to you in writing within 1 week if required, and a copy of that response will be circulated to all councillors. This is not a forum for members of the public to lodge complaints against individuals, including councillors and staff, particularly as that individual gets no public right of reply to any matter raised. We take complaints seriously, and in line with the guidance from the Victorian Ombudsman and the Local Government Inspectorate, we request that any specific complaint against an individual be put in writing. This way your concerns can be properly dealt with while ensuring fairness to all parties concerned. If you wish to speak, remind you that this is a part of the meeting is being recorded and broadcast on our website. Council official minutes will record that you have spoken to Council and the subject you spoke to Council about, but will not record specific comments. We ask that you state your name in full, where you're from, and you have 3 minutes. So who would like to, in fact, get this game off and running? We can take travel time. We'll take travel time into account. You're okay.
I know who you are. There's a copy of what I'll be talking about very possibly for each councillor. Can I say in a population of 43,000 people in our Shire.
Before you start, would you just like to go back through the protocol and your name and where you're from?
Does the 3 minutes start from that?
After that, I'll go.
Bill Redmond, I'm a local here in Sale, and I'm part of the working group from the Wellington Primary Care Partnership. I'm here to be very, very positive and share with you some developments in relation to the health of our community members, and as in the past, expect us to work together as a partnership group with council and the people that are doing so much voluntary work. I'm very proud to be part of this Shire. We have very positive groups. The Shire itself in 2016 did a lot of passing on of information that was helpful to people in terms of physical activity. The ABC picked up on expert information that way to our whole Shire, and the development of the Wellington Primary Care Partnership has come from a very extensive meeting in the past that involved a whole lot of support groups, including hospitals and whatever. We have in our Shire the same as across the whole of Gippsland and the same for all of Victoria. We have a problem with obesity and overweight. Information's there on that sheet, so I'm not going to go into it too far. If it's not arrested, it leads to very, very serious health problems. Now, when you look at our Shire and see the percentage of people that are aged, I'm an octogenarian, and I appreciated your presentation. It is a real issue. I think what we can do to help people is provide correct scientific medical advice to those people, to the whole of our 43,000 people. There is a feeling that if you say to somebody, look, you're a bit overweight or you're a bit obese, they feel guilty. We live in an era where physical activity is not part of our lives. Go back to my generation and all we did was physical. I can remember riding a horse and riding a bike to school as a 6-year-old. Everything you did was physical. Now we live in a technological age. We do a lot of sitting down. We are time poor, which leads to problems with our selection of food and what we cook and what we buy from the supermarket and so on. So to look at that, we have the Wellington Share Partnership has done 7 workshops throughout the whole Shire, getting people to put inputs into terms what are the issues that interfere with our healthy diet and activity. And we've come to a point now of starting to be active. I have the ABC on side to take on board anything we can bring up. We have Professor Gordon Lynch from the University of Melbourne on side. Gordon and I work very well together. If you want some good information from Gordon, have a listen on 5:45 every Saturday morning. Most people usually laugh about that, but he is really, really good value. What we've identified as the first issue is the need to be active in our society. Not to put blame on people and say we're inactive. It's just the environment we live in. And Gordon and I have been able to work together. I'm working on behalf of the Wellington Primary Care Partnership, not myself, to come up with a paper which you have got there, which will be handled by the ABC in the near future, and which we are inviting the council to use the newsletters throughout the whole Shire to pass on this information to the community, so it gets to the community. Now, when we did that in the past, the number of communities I visited, only going back a couple of years, mentioned, oh, you're the bloke who wrote something about riding his bike or whatever. So it was read by a whole lot of people, and people I talk to say, oh, so your local paper's interesting. Yeah, we read the whole damn lot of it. So we're passing that invitation on. It won't be effective unless the Shire can help us to get this information to the local newsletters. I know the Shire supports those newsletters. It will be a very different Shire without them. And basically that's my reason for being here today. There are only two areas that aren't covered by newsletters. One is Bryagalong, the other one's Golden Beach. We'd be happy to do that individually. We can cover the Sale, Maffra and Yarram local papers. How am I going for time? I'm finished.
Well done. Thanks, Bill. Thank you very much for your, thanks for your presentation.
That's praise.
Thanks for,
yeah, come on, welfare, come on.
Good on you.
It's good to see councillors smiling.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks very much for being here. Appreciate your presentation. And now we've got... Yeah, and you know the routine.
I know the routine. Ron Darcy, Maxima Job Link in Sale. Well, thank you for having me, Mr Mayor and councillors. I just wanted to comment on something that went down last week. We had a wonderful trip out to Dargo with the Wellington Access Inclusion Advisory Group, members of which are in the gallery today, including Rosalie and our chairman, James Griffiths. We also had Claire, one of the members, Councillor Crosley, we were very honoured that you were able to come with us as well. Also, John Gray, Rural Access Coordinator, myself, and we also had Sam and Ben from Federation Training's Skills and Jobs Centre who came up to help advise. It came about because John Gray, James and myself went for a trip to Dargo to do a bit of a fact-finding thing about what was going on up there through the neighbourhood house. And when we met with Sarah, the head nurse there at the centre, the Dargo Bush Nursing Centre, it was identified that they were coming up to an auditing period or accreditation period. And there was a few things that they were like, we're not sure how we go about accessibility. And we sort of went, well, we know these guys. Rural Access has recent times been working on, with conjunction with WAIG, this accessibility template, an auditing document, and we finally got to give it a really good test run. So up we went in our van and we had a ball. It was very interesting getting people with vision impairment across cattle grids, but it was a fantastic day. We were well welcomed. We had to, of course, do some quality checking on the hamburgers at the Dargo General Store, but we were happy to take that one for the team. Guys, if you haven't been to Dargo for a while, make the trip. It was absolutely wonderful. I really would like to thank the people of Dargo for their reception of us, and thank you to Wellington Shire Council and to the WAIG for being able to go and give so much back to the community. It was a fantastic day. We met so many wonderful people that were genuinely interested in hearing how can we make this better, what can we do, and things they hadn't even thought about. So we had a great time, so thanks very much.
Terrific, thank you very much. Councillor McCubbin.
May I, now that Mr Darcy is with us, to also congratulate him on his recent boat trip on the Lakes tour. And I know James, you took James and you were on a kayak.
Yes, yes. We went on the Sail to Sea Kayak Challenge, which was fantastic. And Sail to Sea do some amazing things for accessibility in sport. We were members of the GIP Sport team. Yes, I'm proud to say I was one of only two people that fell in the water the entire trip.
Well, good on you for assisting James, and I know James and you would have done well in the thing. Can I also thank you and congratulate you for the colour run on last Saturday? I know you were there very early in the morning setting up for the hundreds of people that turned up, and saw photos of you at the end, and you obviously had a pretty good day.
I apologise for the state and colour of your wife upon her return home.
Yes, indeed. I'll talk to you about that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think we are just about done, save and except Councillor Stevens. Would you like to do the honours?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I would just like to move that the meeting be closed to the public pursuant to Section 89(2) of the Local Government Act 1989 to consider personnel matters.
Seconder for that motion. Councillor Bye. Motion's not opposed. Motion is carried. Thank you very much.